Daniel, it's a certain time.
Oh, yes, it is.
Somebody was correct on this issue. Ron Paul was correct, but I think also another candidate who's running for office.
This person?
Yeah,
perhaps?
Tulsi Gabbard. It's a Tulsi time, everybody.
Maybe it's not her. Maybe it's her.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
No, only half of them, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah, the one on the right.
Maybe this is what she said to Kamala after she left the race. Sorry. Okay.
All right, so Daniel, take it away. This has to deal with a very important document that people are forgetting to even acknowledge now.
Well, mainstream media especially. So,
because impeachment's going to probably be dominating.
So we have we have these documents that came out, the Afghanistan papers, we're now calling them, which basically came out and said, hey, look, we really have no idea what we're doing in Afghanistan, and we never really did. There was never really a true objective. There was never really a way to accomplish that objective, and everything's been terrible forever. So why are we bringing this up? Well, this is something that is a cornerstone of what Tulsi Gabbard's campaign is about and why she joined the race in the first place and why she's fighting to end these regime change wars, because that's what they are. So we start with this, that this is actually from the Washington Post, which actually has done some actual amount of journalism. So everyone give them the small, the smallest clap you can think of.
Daniel, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, that's fair. That's also incredibly fair. Anyway, so they got this. They've got interviews from over 400 government insiders, including 3-star generals, who had told them that what I just said, they have no idea what they're doing, and they're basically just wasting money and lives and et cetera in Afghanistan. Then this goes all the way back to Bush, and in a sense, this is a quote, Jeffrey Edgar is a retired Navy SEAL and the White House staffer for Bush and Obama. Well, interesting. Both of them got the same staffer. It's like those administrations shared a lot of things. Told government interviewers the war's $1 trillion price tag would delight Osama bin Laden. What did we get for this $1 trillion effort? Was it worth $1 trillion? And just on a side note, this makes something like 9/11 one of the most successful attacks ever, because what did they do? They flew 3 planes into 3 buildings. The 4th plane crashed, and the U.S. is like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take away our civil liberties. We're going to pass the Patriot Act. We're going to spend over $1 trillion. We're going to invade the Middle East. We're going to kill our own servicemen and women. We're going to kill people in the Middle East, and we're going to make a situation where terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda can flourish in a way that they've never flourished before. In fact, getting to a point that they had for a period had a caliphate in northern Iraq. But again, that's, if you really think about it, it was a very successful attack. It got exactly what they wanted. The American people were played as a fiddle, but little did they know that the American government wanted to just spend a lot of money and lives. Anyway, the Afghan papers also vindicate Tulsi Gabbard, and she's a representative who's not afraid to criticize her own party, which she continuously pays dearly for in the press and everywhere else. And she served in the military, and she's getting the treatment from the established politicians and mainstream media, and they're comparing it in this article to what happened with Ron Paul in 2008, when he was literally very much like Tulsi Gabbard, just completely ignored from polls. He would take 4th place, and Wolf Blitzer, of course, would go, in 1st place we have this, in 2nd place we have this, in 3rd place we have this, and in 5th place, rounding it out, we have this. So, that's what you get for attacking the military-industrial complex in that high profit motive. And the corporate press is blacking out her campaign. But in the end, she was right. She was right about all of this. And now we have even more evidence to prove it. And it's been really fun to watch mainstream media go over the last 3 years, how dare you commie, how dare you challenge the narrative, to, well, who had any idea that the Afghanistan war was a bad idea? Paul.
Yeah, so this type of information has been slowly leaking out of various levels of the military and the government for ages and ages and ages, and there's certainly been ample criticism from those of us who hold generally anti-war points of view, those of us who want to engage in peace building. And so obviously in the wake of the government sort of officially admitting its malfeasance in this grand scale, admitting to these essentially war crimes, the obvious next steps which are being taken are complete withdrawal from Afghanistan and unilateral aid administered through the United Nations. Wait, nope, none of that is happening. We're still there, still conducting these military operations. To what end? To what end? Get out of Afghanistan. We've been there. Like, I have made this point before. I will continue to make this point. There are now men and women deployed in Afghanistan who were not yet born during the inciting events that brought us into that war.
Right.
It's beyond the pale.
So I'm going to make this very clear to a lot of people, and this goes to voters, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. The Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment, the leaders in the United States Congress, as well as previous presidential administrations, all have close ties with the military-industrial complex. For years, corporate media has played the tune of, we have to invade Afghanistan for freedom. We have to invade Iraq for freedom. We have to continue this war on terror to preserve our freedoms. But let's look at the cost. First, an uncountable amount of innocent civilians in those areas where we have participated in these regime change wars have been lost forever, have been maimed, wounded. We have created more terrorist cells because of our actions. Many innocent civilians are now forever impacted by our intervention into many sovereign countries. Think about also many of the armed men and women who served in the United States military, who are now suffering from PTSD or who have died, the families that have lost loved ones. Think about the amount of treasury that we have lost. And also think about this too, because last week we covered on how the House voted in favor for Donald Trump's war budget. Bipartisanship exists in the United States Congress, especially when it comes down to favoring the military-industrial complex. 188 Democrats and 189 Republicans in the United States House vote in favor for increasing the military budget for Donald Trump. Wow. War is a huge racket. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit taken aback from this because I did 2 tours in Iraq, and that was way back between 2004 and 2008. And just think about it. We're still in these areas. We're still conducting regime change wars. We have a genocide that's happening in Yemen that's being supported by the United States government. Saudi Arabia is doing that. We are getting involved in removing democratically elected leaders from their offices. For example, there was an attempt in Venezuela. There was a successful attempt in Bolivia. But yet, whenever anyone brings this up about how we're getting involved in what we're doing, they're immediately labeled as a traitor, or they're a nutcase, or that they don't know what they're talking about. But yet, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, similar to Ron Paul, as well as numerous other progressives and independents, and look, libertarians and conservatives too, that are against these regime change wars, whenever they brought this up, they were laughed at. But it turns out, oh my goodness, we were right the whole time. And now corporate media gets to say, we never knew. We never knew. Of course they knew. Never forget, we had that one jackass from NBC. What was the name? Who was
Brian Williams?
Brian Williams saying, look at these big, beautiful bombs, these missiles just launch up in the air. Yeah, they look beautiful when they're launching up in the air. It looks great.
Oh, what's his name? Fareed Zakar, who's like, now President Trump is presidential.
Right.
It's like, oh my goodness.
But think about it though. When we see those missiles get shot up in the air, but we never see them land. We never see the innocent lives that are taken away. So shout out to Tulsi Gabbard for being correct on this issue. And numerous other people in the past that have been calling out these ridiculous regime change wars that we've been involved in since 2001, since the war on terror began. We're never going to see that treasury again. The people who have died because of these regime change wars will never come back. And the men and women who served in the United States military, who are now suffering from PTSD or have lost their lives will never come back to normal. The families who have lost their loved ones, they are lost. This is madness and stupidity.
I just want to say one final thing on this, and that is, this is not the action of a country that knows what it's doing. This is the action of a short-sighted corporation. This is, and here's something I would like you to think about. Go to any of those sheep herders in the valley in Afghanistan and go up to them and explain to them that we've occupied your country for about 2 decades because, you know, there's these buildings that we used to have and that we really liked them and they were in America and some planes hit them and now we're here and now you got to do what we say.
Yeah, hold on real quick.
How do you like that democracy?
Also, one other thing, too. This is why we have to get involved in this 2020 election cycle. And look, I don't care what your political beliefs are, but this war on terror has gone on for long enough. It has consumed a lot of our treasury. We have money for a joint strike fighter that doesn't even fly at night. We have money for endless regime change wars, but we don't have the money to take care of our civilians. We don't have money to make sure we have Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, rebuilding our infrastructure, or dealing with climate change. But we have money for the war profiteers. We have money for the people who want to profit off this war. And we have money to basically send innocent civilians to their deaths. I mean, this is madness. We're better than this. This 2020 election cycle requires you to step up. Don't be that person who says that they wish they could have helped. So know the rules and regulations in your state's primary so that when you get a chance to vote, vote with the understanding of that you have the chance to change things. All right. Sorry, that was my little rant. I didn't mean to go on that, but we have to step up.
Yep. I feel like we've gone over that topic repeatedly because we've had a lot of time to do so. It's been going on for a very long time, and we've been critical of it for a very, very long time.
Yes, and I do apologize for calling Brian. Well, not. You know what? Sorry.
Remember he also pretended he was shot at in a helicopter?
Yeah. You know what? Fuck that guy.
He doesn't need our sympathy.
Yeah, Brian
He's got money, and the military industrial complex and the news industrial complex is backing him. He really doesn't need our sympathy.
Yeah, no. Screw that guy.